Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to a really, really fun show. I can guarantee you we're going to have a lot of fun conversations this afternoon. We're going to be talking with John McCrea about his career in comics, and we're showing off some of the artwork that he has available for sale. I actually saw Jordan is in the chat. He said that he's already given it a thumbs up. And I have to tell you, Jordan, I saw that artwork that you posted on CAF earlier today that I didn't tell John about, that we're going to show it at some point in the show, and we can talk about that early Hitman art that you posted, I'm sure, just because we're doing this conversation today. So without further ado, let me bring in the gentleman of the hour, Mr. John McCrea. Hey, John.
Hello there. How you doing, Bill?
I'm fantastic outside of my air conditioning issue here in Central Florida, but really, how are you doing?
I am fine, thank you. Yep, not too bad at all. Had a nice day and just getting ready for this. You know, had a shave, possibly put on a new jumper, etc., etc.
Wow, that's good. You always got to present yourself best. So there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but like you had mentioned, before we got started, you're almost a 40-year veteran of the industry, and
Sure.
In your 40 years,
Frighteningly, yes.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I've looked at a lot of your artwork, and I just feel like your style has like matured over the years. It was really slick and tight and kind of avant-garde, crazy early on. I mean, maybe you don't feel that way, but I went to art school, so I feel like I can say that. And I look at your work today, and it still has that same flair, but it's structured in a different way. And I love to see an evolution like that in an artist. So how would you describe for us your 40-year trek from first getting into comics, the published work, to where you are today?
Well, I suppose when I started out, I mean, I really was a Marvel head. I had been most of my career, most of my collecting career. I mean, I bought any comic I could get my hands on, but I lent more heavily towards Marvel than anything else. And I sort of tried to break into the industry with that sort of a style. I had a much more sort of, I think, sort of a kind of Alan Davis-y, Brian Bollandy sort of thing going on in my sample work earlier on. And then when I did break in, I almost immediately, after a couple of small G.I. Joe stories and a few other little odds and sods, let me see. Sorry, the little comments popping up are distracting me. Not as bad. It's very nice. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for saying hi, and hello back. But I almost immediately got paired up with Garth Ennis, and we started doing Troubled Souls together, which was a fully painted and book, and as was the thing back then, with Glenn Fabry, Simon Bisley, John J. Muth, Bill Sienkiewicz, and things like that. Painted artwork was a big thing, and 2000 AD and so on were kind of aiming themselves in that direction, a lot of more painted work. Mm-hmm. And I had never painted in my life, so I had to spend the next hundreds and hundreds of pages just learning how to paint. And because I was doing things like Troubled Souls, much more realistic sort of stories, I kind of moved away from the superhero sort of stuff that I had been doing. And really, by the time I got back to sort of working on superhero comics, I'd kind of forgotten how to draw them. So I kind of pushed myself in directions that I was interested in. I mean, like the Spider-Man book I did with Garth, Tangled Web, was done in a much more sort of open, cartoony style, and sort of almost, I hate to sort of sound like arrogant or anything, because I'm not. It was sort of slightly ahead of its time, and I'm not sure if it succeeded because it wasn't really that sort of thing. That really did come off terribly, terribly arrogant. And so because I was sort of doing that, I started to experiment a lot more, and then I ended up, with Hitman. It was much more realistic, except for the dinosaurs and six-pack and the demon. Not the realistic side from those things. So I guess I just find myself moving away from superhero stuff. And I've always been into lots of other stuff aside from superhero comics. I've had quite a wide range and a lot of European artists. And I guess recently I I I'd been doing a comic called Dead Eyes, which was this super slick kind of noir story. And then I got long COVID, and I basically can't draw like that anymore. It that my I can't focus well enough to produce those slick lines. So I had to change my style completely again and went for this more scribbly stuff that, a more sort of scribbly, wobbly, less precise style that I'm messing about with now. I mean, sometimes you're throwing, a curveball like that, and you just have to do with it what you can. And, actually, like the other day, Kyle Baker dropped a note on me saying, I really am enjoying what you're doing with your stuff lately. And when one of my super heroes from my, from Why I Hate Saturn onward, I've been, well, and even before Why I Hate Saturn, when I was inking Marvel Comics and Butch Geist on New Mutants and various other things like that, John Byrne on the Avengers. I've loved Kyle's stuff since day one. And to have him saying that was just like a huge sort of ego boost and art boost for me. So I guess I also get very bored if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. And so I just find myself trying to experiment and mess about and change my style a little bit, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, so it was a little bit of necessity there with the long COVID being a part of that, but sure. I do. I mean, I like your early style, but I like that kind of scratchy, quality that's kind of coming through in the more recent stuff too. There's just something about it
that goes back to my love of 2000 AD. I think really. I was a 2000 AD reader from issue 1, and my heroes from 2000 AD, I guess, would be Mick McMahon and Kev O'Neill. Really, and the influence of those two guys on my art today, along with guys like Topi and whatnot, is fairly obvious, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and what you're doing now,
yeah. So I mean, if you're going to steal, try and steal from the best, I suppose.
No, I mean, and I always love hearing because Topi is a big influence on many
sure.
comic book illustrators, right? I mean,
sure.
and
sure.
it's he's just somebody who I think has great appeal across so many different artistic genres, not just comics, but people who work in illustration. He's just a master, and it's wonderful seeing people who can influence so many different creators. I've heard his name come up many times with talking with other artists, but wow. So that answers a lot. But I want to go back to, you said you got paired up with Garth Ennis. I mean, that wasn't kind of a choice, or
well, how that happened was I was running a comic shop in Northern Ireland, Belfast, Northern Ireland's first comic shop. I opened it in 87, I think, basically because there was nowhere to buy comics in Northern Ireland. I had been buying them mail order and from news agents. And I thought what we need in Northern Ireland is a comic shop. And my mate and I basically had decided we would run a stall in a market. And then we bought our records, our punk records and reggae records from a guy called Terry Hooley, who ran a comic shop called Good Vibrations. Terry discovered the Undertones and gave them their first record deals. In fact, Terry had his own record label called Good Vibrations, the same name as the shop. And we were in there chatting to him about that one day. And Terry said, just use my back room, and gave it to us for free. And we cleared it out and started a comic shop in there. And it was a tiny wee comic shop, but one of our customers was Garth. And he would come in and buy Cerebus and Concrete and things like that from us. And everybody who came in knew that I was wanting to be a comic artist, and had in fact started getting little bits of work. And 2000 AD at the time were publishing a comic called Crisis, which was their sister comic, and it was a sort of a comic. The comics grew up, biff pam pow wham, as they would always say in the newspapers. Comics grow up, political comics, blah blah blah. And so Crisis had started out really well, but sales were sort of dipping, and they were looking for something new and interesting, exciting. And Garth said to me, let's pitch a comic about the troubles in Northern Ireland. Two young lads, as we were back then, two young lads from Belfast, writing about and drawing about the troubles. It's a real no-brainer. Next thing we know, we're being flown over to meet up with the guys at Fleetway, and they basically said, can you do this? And there were bets in the office that we were just going to be a shambles. But, we did okay. And I lied profusely about being able to paint 90 pages of comic art, since I'd never painted a thing in my life. And we got the gig. And so that was really that. I mean, it wasn't so much they put us together. That Garth went to the same school as me, and he was in my brother's year. So we're aware of each other, I guess. And then when he started coming into the shop, obviously, we chatted a bit about this and that, and the rest is some sort of history, I guess.
Oh, it's a long collaboration. I think.
Yeah, we've worked for a lot together. Not so much recently, but he's been doing a bit of stuff for 2000 AD recently, and I've been doing some stuff. So I've done some covers on issues that he's been in, and that's quite nice. It sort of feels sort of kind of circular. So there. But that whole business about this is me with my sales pitch, that whole business about my breaking into comics and the comic shop and meeting Garth and things is in my book, The Mighty World of McCrea, which you can buy from my website.
That's right. So, I was going to say that, but you've done that for me.
Yeah. It's a sort of, there's a comics in there, and there's that I've drawn, and articles and interviews with people and things like that. It's like an annual that I did when COVID and lockdown happened, and
right.
And work dried up. I thought, well, like a lot of people thought, geez, I better do a Kickstarter and to make some money. And I'd always enjoyed the old British annual format where they would do articles and puzzle pages and things like that. And so I did that. So anyway, sales pitch over.
Well, but that was because you did a couple Kickstarters during the pandemic, right? That was in 2020, and then
and then I did a Dead Eyes art book.
That's right.
Kind of like basically all the art books that you see. It had the scripts, it had my original artwork, and it had me discussing why I did things and showing artwork that I had cast aside for whatever reason, layouts, etc., etc. Just the whole shebang about creating the first 4 issues of that book.
Interesting. Yeah, and everybody should know in the show description down below there is a link over to John's website, so you can pick up the book that way if you're interested. And I think there's a few other things over there too. A couple other
just one or two,
a little bit of art, a little bit of everything. So
sure.
We have an international audience. Jesper just said he's here from Sweden, and I saw a few other people from across.
Hello again, folks.
Yeah. Now, it's funny when I was going through your art on Caffeine, you have almost 1,000 pieces of art on Comic Art Fans. I don't know if you know that or not. That's
I did not know that, but I mean, yeah, that's cool.
That is
it's really a testament to the volume of stuff and the amount, the length of time I've been cranking in the industry for, I guess. And I used to be an extremely speedy artist back in the old days, back when I was working on Hitman and the Demon. I could do 2.5 books a month.
Wow.
That was just pencils, mind. And I did have inkers back then. And now I have slowed down somewhat dramatically due to all the usual reasons, age and kids, and just generally wanting my artwork to be, I think I try to do less shortcuts these days and try to make every page as good as I possibly can make it at the time I'm doing it. So I feel there's a number of reasons why I've slowed down, but yeah, I used to be a very prolific artist back in the day. So yeah, there's a lot of my artwork sloshing about, I suppose.
Yeah, I see. In more of the recent stuff, it seems like there's a lot of cover work that you've done. I think you mentioned recently that you have some 2000 AD covers coming out. Is that just part of it? That's what fits better into your schedule these days versus.
Well, I mean, I am still doing comic strip work. I've got a Dredd story coming up at some point in 2000, and I'm still working away on Deadeyes, which is due to start this year officially. For goodness sakes, yes, at long last, it is starting up again. At some point, I'm not allowed to say when, but a date has been set. So yeah, it will be happening as well. So that's something I'm doing. And I've just done a wee Hellblazer story for DC, another one beyond the one I did a couple of years ago. I think I've got some stuff for Marvel coming up as well, a short story too. But that hasn't been announced, so I can't say what. So yeah, but for me at the moment, my creator-owned work is my sort of focus. Mm-hmm. And obviously it sort of fell off the rails a wee bit with the pandemic and COVID and the other thing that I don't want to talk about. And so my focus has been getting Deadeyes back on track. And I mean, I've got over three issues in the bag of the next series. I've been chipping away at it slowly over the last 5 years. And so, yeah, Jerry Duggan and I are now focused on getting that back up and running. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that coming out because it has been a long, horrible old grind. So it has.
So just know we don't have a firm date when the first book will be available.
Well,
sometime.
Yeah, we do, but I'm not allowed to say because it hasn't been announced yet.
All right, but it is in 2024, so we can at least say that.
Yes, and I can absolutely confirm that it is in 2024. Yes,
good. Reva's happy that you've got a new Hellblazer story coming out. I think that's something coming out soon. I think if I was reading,
it's issue 5 is like 3 short stories. Obviously to give regular artist time, just an issue breather. Mm-hmm. But it's written by Cy Spurrier as per usual. Yeah, it was a fun one. So it was, and I really was getting my topi on in certain panels. So, desperately trying to be as much like him as I possibly can.
Well, so, kind of bringing Toby back makes you think, during that painterly period for comics, I mean, what was it like? You're hanging around guys that, like yourself are people who, are well collected, well admired to this day. When you mentioned, Bisley and Bill Sienkiewicz, those guys. I can't say. I mean, I wasn't in any way comparing myself to those guys. Right? No. But the thing is, you were there with them. Well, they were really good painters. It was because of them that the trend in artwork for comics during that period switched. Became kind of painterly or more illustrative. And to be around those guys when they were doing that must have been kind of an exciting time to be involved in comics.
Well, I suppose so. I mean, like I said, I had never actually really painted before. So, and for me, learning how to do that on the job was quite painful, actually, because a lot of what I was doing didn't quite work a lot of the time in my eyes. And when you compared your stuff to guys who were so solid and good, like, I mean, I was a huge Kent Williams and John J. Muth fan, as well as Bill Sienkiewicz, as well as Bisley and Glenn Fabry. All those guys were huge influences on me as far as trying to learn how to paint went. So, and they're all exceptional talents. And I was lucky enough that I knew Glenn very well and would travel down and see him in Brighton when he was painting things like the Preacher covers and Judge Dredd and Batman, Judgment in Gotham or whatever. So learned quite a lot from just looking over his shoulder. I mean, I think my style owes more to Glenn, my painting style owes more to Glenn than anybody else, because I sort of just learned under his wing to a large degree, just looking at his. I mean, Glenn didn't formally sit down and say, "Now, this is a paintbrush, John, and this is a page, and you dip the paintbrush into paint." But just by sitting, watching his technique and sort of like glancing over, I'd be sitting drawing a page of Hitman, and he'd be working on that. Then I would glance over and draw. Would it be Hitman? Probably. I don't know. No. It was pre-Hitman, long before Hitman. I'd be working on whatever I was working on, and he would be doing his thing, and I would just be sort of glancing over and going, "Oh, right, okay." Because when I started painting, I used acrylics, but I didn't understand how they worked and used them like watercolors. I didn't understand that you could put down a layer of acrylic and then paint over the top of it, and things like that. I really had no clue. Literally no clue at all. I was just flailing about. So yeah, it is, when I look back at my stuff, Trouble Souls and things like that, there's a certain amount of, I can see the energy in it and enjoy the energy, and a lot of it is quite nice in its way, but I can see the mistakes and the errors and the sort of the confusion and my trying to find my way through this sort of this minefield that I find painting to be. And I honestly, I have never been happy painting comics. I never was, and I don't think I ever will be. I always grew up wanting to be a black and white comic artist. I wanted to be Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko or John Buscema or whoever, and that whole big section of painting was kind of like a bit where I just had to fight my way through that until I could get back to back to black and white artwork again. And once I did, I was so goddamn relieved. I was just I got employed by Archie Goodwin at DC, and the very first job I got was another fully painted book, and I tell you, I could have cried. But then I got it after I finished that, he gave me a Legends of the Dark Knight book, and I was like, oh, thank God, right, actual drawing. Yeah, though I did paint the covers for it, so I hadn't completely given up on the painting side of things. But but painting interiors is just so laborious and time consuming, and you kind of get each panel becomes it's a painting within itself, and I find that that's not really what comics are all about. A page is meant to be a page as a whole, and the panels within it tell a story, but because you have to spend so long on painting one panel, you kind of forget the rest of the page, I find. So I've never had an affinity for painted work, despite the amount of it I did. And I'm just so happy just to be sitting doing my black and white comic art now. Yeah, again.
I can see that as being problematic if you're when you're approaching it. You want to just paint a splash page every page, right? So it's
I mean, I think that's what. I mean, somebody like Bill Sienkiewicz can do it, because they've got so much flair and just natural ability. But I find that painted artwork distracts from storytelling to the most part. It's great for covers and whatnot because it looks impressive and woo wow. But and that's what you want out of a cover. But when you get into the nuts and bolts of storytelling, I think there's nothing beats good old fashioned black and white.
Well, we're not going to disagree with one another on that. I mean, that's no. I mean, it. I think it really does require a singular talent. Who a guy like Bill Sienkiewicz. I keep harking back to Bill, but I think he is probably one of the most amazing painted artists out there. When you look at something like Stray Toasters or Electra Assassin or what have you, those books are just amazing, and they're so readable as well. You can stop and look if you want to, but you can just read through it. And he is just such, just so clever with the way he uses the color artwork. That I can't
that, and I could never be that smart.
Wow.
It's just as easy as that. Yeah.
I would highlight a comment from Grim Jagger saying, to be fair, I think artists are always their own worst critics, and so and I get it. But the thing is, clearly there was something that was uncomfortable about it.
Thank
right?
you, Clara, by the way. That's I know. Yeah, Grim Jagger says it's Clara. Yes. Okay. Yeah, and we are. I think you have to be your own worst critic. I think it's essential if you want to grow as an artist to be self-critical and look at each page you do and go, "Grr, I could have done that better." And be tough on yourself. It does lead to a lot of hair falling out and such like, but I guess that's just the price you pay if you want to get better. You've just got to be very self-critical, I think. It's very rare I look at a page of my older artwork and I'm pleased with myself or anything like that. I always see faults. Though actually, the further back I go, with my black and white artwork, if I go back and look at the Demon and Hitman and things like that, I'm always jealous of my younger self and how much energy the artwork had. I look at it and go, God, look at that. I just didn't. Somebody posted a panel from the Batman Chronicles. It was a Hitman story that was in the Batman Chronicles when the big plague thing was going on in Gotham. It was sort of a crossover. And there's a shot of Batman on a rooftop. And they posted it and just went, look at this. And I looked at it myself and just went, gee, I just didn't give a damn, did I? I was just like, yeah, I'm going to draw the hell out of Batman. And I don't know if I can do that anymore. I don't have that sort of like, I want to get Batman right. I approach each drawing of Batman and go, well, if I'm going to draw Batman, I want it to be the best Batman. Back then, I was just like, fuck yeah, I'm going to draw the hell out of Batman. And I sort of wish I could do that again, just have that, damn it, I'm going to do it. And, balls to the wall sort of enthusiasm. And I try, but I'm also so wrapped up in some of the finish and the anatomy and just getting it right. It just, and I think sometimes maybe I lose a little bit of that zing that I used to have when I was just a lot
more spontaneous. So you
yeah.
I don't want to say it was carefree because I'm sure it was well thought out, but yeah, you were less concerned about getting the muscle.
And I was more carefree back then. True, you didn't have so much of the responsibilities on your shoulders and whatnot and so forth, and so it was more like, well, I can do this way, and I don't give a damn. And DC can either suck it or.
I mean, did they ever give you a hard time?
Like, Jesus, I hope DC really liked this.
Right, but clearly they must have, or they wouldn't have, kept giving you work. So whatever you were doing was in their eye. I mean, and that was the timing was perfect. I mean, I think for that we're talking early 90s, and
sure.
I mean that's what they were looking for, really. And so they
didn't
quite get it. They probably didn't care because as long as the books were selling and the audience was enjoying it, and I think DC was doing a lot of great stuff in the early 90s, and certainly your work on the Demon and Hitman were a part of that. So yeah, that's I get it though. That's that has to be how do you get yourself back in that same headspace, right? It's probably impossible.
Well, it's impossible because you're not the same person you were. That's it's one of those things. I think it's fairly impossible. You're a different artist. You're a different person, and in a lot of ways, thank God, because I did tend to be a bit of an asshole back then. And maybe that's why my artwork was just so damn carefree, because I was just too I don't know. I'm just slagging myself off for the fun of it now. But
right.
It's you're a different person and you mature and your art changes. I mean, one of my favorite artists, Mick McMahon, the Judge Dredd artist and various Last American. And that guy has had so many style changes over his career, and all of them are wonderful in my eyes. But I don't think he could ever go back to being Mick McMahon from his 20s any more than I guess I could go back to being, John McCrea back in his 20s. You just change, and the art changes with you, hopefully for the better, or or at least, if not better, different in a way that appeals to enough people.
Right. Well, it's got to appeal to you too, or you wouldn't be doing it still. So,
I mean, that is a big important part. Fair enough. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it wouldn't be worth it. But that's what's kind of interesting about the just your approach after the long COVID is just you're still trying to find ways to keep yourself interested in the art and
Sure.
and enjoy what you're doing, and look forward to the next project. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think like growing up in Belfast and those the comic shop and those sorts of things were kind of what gave you that just F it, I don't care, I'm going to do what I feel is right within these books?
I have no idea. I have no idea really at all. I mean, growing up in Belfast, comic distribution was spotty, and I did everything I could to find every comic that was in the greater Belfast area. And I think I'm just so enthusiastic for the medium, and still am. Just love everything about comics, and it really was and is to a large degree what sort of drives me on each day. So yeah, but I had no idea if anything to do with my environment really, other than there happened to be some comic shops about, and I like I like reading them. I mean, I dreamed of being over in the UK where they did have comic shops. I would see adverts in the British weeklies for Darkly Ware and Golden Eyed, which sounded just like the most awesome, mysterious place in the world. And I never actually got the Darkly Ware and Golden Eyed, which was the precursor to Forbidden Planet. It became Forbidden Planet, and I always just wanted. It was just like, imagine a shop just for comics. And so I guess after 17 years of not being able to go into a comic shop myself, aside from occasionally going over to London and going to Forbidden Planet or Comic Showcase, I just decided enough is enough. I'm going to start my own comic shop. And wouldn't you know, as soon as I did start my own comic shop, another one opened about 4 months later. Yeah, so it's the way it is. It's always buses, isn't it? None for years, and then two come along. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, I thought Jordan said he was he's leaving. He's in Hawaii, so who knows what he's going off to. But,
I remember Jordan. Yes. We used to talk a bit on. Yes, he bought some artwork off me. Hey, Jordan, all the best.
Yes,
sorry you can't stick around.
But he posted 2 pieces of art to comic art fans today, and I'll just show them off now. So the first was the title page to Demon Annual 2.
Yep.
So he's showing off that, and that's pretty impressive. Obviously, the first Hitman book, and he also posted the final page from Demon Annual 2. So you really get the first view of Hitman here. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, those are nice pages. It was funny when I was doing that book. Obviously, I was drawing the demon as a that was my main focus, was the demon. So it was a long old annual, and if you remember it was part of the Bloodlines crossover, and they had these Arthur Adams designed aliens, and Arthur had done that classic thing of like, I'm never going to have to draw these in a comic strip, so I'm going to design the most ridiculously detailed lunatic. I mean, I'm sure every artist who worked in those annuals was cursing him as they drew them, and including me. But so to actually draw the whole thing, I needed help with the inking, and so I had a certain number of pages that I had to dole out to other inkers. And because I was drawing the demon, I thought, well, this Hitman character is just an incidental character. So I gave away all the pages that just had Tommy on them to other inkers, not realizing that, of course, in 3 or 4 years' time, that it was actually going to be Hitman that was much more important to me. And so, yeah, it was a one of those things where you just sort of go, oops. The other thing was Garth just had this bar that he wanted put in where Tommy shows up, and he suggested it be called Noonan's, and because I thought it was just a throwaway thing, I just called it Noonan's Sleazy Bar for a laugh. And of course that stuck as well, because it had to be. And later Garth had to retroactively write a story about why it was called Noonan's Sleazy Bar. He had to tidy up that plot point for his readers, because Garth always does like to do that. He likes to make sure everything's explained. He's a good writer that way. So yeah, it was just me causing him bother, of course. But yeah, those are nice pages. Back then, I used to work. I inked with a felt tip almost, as far as I recall. I think it was I think they're light fast, but they wear like felt tips. It's sort of yeah. But I haven't used those sort of pens for years and years and years. It just gives you a different kind of line. Yeah. And of course it was the time of giant shoulders, giant. Everybody had massive suits and bagginess, and I had this terrible thing for drawing enormous flies on trousers. The zip up flies. I think it was just a style thing that I kind of thought would be funny, and so I would draw like giant flies on trousers. I don't know, silly.
It
Why
indeed?
I cannot recall.
But yeah, there you go. This is I just saw Andreas is in the chat as well. So
hey, Andreas, how you doing?
Probably your somebody who has at least a couple hundred pages of yours in their calf gallery. And the great thing about Andreas is always credits Garth as well, because a lot of times art collectors don't mention the writer when they're giving credit to the artwork on calf, and we definitely encourage people to do that, but it doesn't happen too often. But I appreciate the fact
especially if it's a story page, especially if it's a story page, and and it's they wouldn't exist without the writer as well, and back in the day, of course, it wouldn't exist without the letterer as well. My favorite letterer of all time, Willie Schubert, who just knocked it out of the park on the Demon and Hitman. Had just the most beautiful logo and lettering font designs, and it was always so wonderful seeing Willie's artwork pasted on and just marveling at how he managed to design all these different logos. Every issue, the titles for the Demon and for Hitman were so clever and beautiful looking. So and letters don't get enough props at the best of times, and Willie's work on Hitman and the Demon was just second to none. It's just superb. I'm working with Willie again on another story that I'm doing with Jerry Duggan. I hadn't done anything with him for ages, and he's sort of, I don't know if Willie's retired or not, but he's certainly not doing as much as he used to do. But it was like putting the old team together, getting Willie back, and I really wanted him to actually letter it physically onto the board, but it's just too tough, him being in the States and me being over here, to go through all that unnecessary expense of FedExing stuff back and forth, just to have the lettering on the board. I know that like Eric Larson, Savage Dragon, he still has all his artwork lettered on board, but I guess maybe he lives near his letterist or something. I don't know.
Right.
Because it just seems, or at least in the same continent as his letterist.
Right. But
it costs down a bit.
yeah, as art collectors, we definitely regret the fact that the lettering isn't on there anymore. I mean, a lot of
I totally agree.
A lot of collectors will actually get the lettering printed on acetate so they can, fix it
over the top.
so they can appreciate the, the entire work as it was meant to be, right?
As long as it's acid-free acetate, yes. As long as they print it on the Mylar or something like that.
That is very, very true. Yeah, the conservation is something we've not talked enough about on the channel.
Yeah. I was a huge nerd for comic conservation when I was in my teens and things, and it started Mylaring my comics back when that was in Northern Ireland. I had to import my Mylar bags from the States because you just couldn't get them in the UK at the time. So yeah, I'm a bit of a nerd for that. Yeah, or at least. Yeah.
A lot of artists didn't care, right? They, they and the paper you were drawing on was not acid free. I mean, now that we have the art, we have to take it to conservators to make sure it's preserved for the next 100 years, right? Because the boards are yellowing, and there's issues with that, and a lot of art collectors don't think about being able to make sure that the next generation of fans actually get to pick up the art. So
yeah, well, I've got a couple of pages of Arthur Adams artwork, and which I picked up when I was a teenager, because I couldn't afford to buy any Arthur Adams artwork these days. But I picked them up, and one of them is a Godzilla page, and this was when art started to ink his own stuff, and it's inked with a felt tip pen. It's I've kept it in a drawer because exposing it to the light, I mean, there's yellowing and the blooming of the ink, and it's depressing to look at. I mean, the other pages I have by him are inked by other people, and so using indie ink and whatnot. So that's all fine and dandy, but the Godzilla page, it's just like, no, tear rolls down cheek. Yeah,
right. That's like when you look at the artwork from Starlin's Death of Captain Marvel, right? I mean, so much of that is fading away.
Sure. I didn't realize that he inked that with felt tip pens or what have you, or markers. Yeah, like Gil Kane when he inked himself.
Oh. Very true. Same thing. Yeah, it started to fade, and it doesn't matter. You could keep it in a drawer, and it's still gonna fade because that's just what happens. So
it's tragic.
And nobody wants to re-ink them because it's like that's still you want to keep it to the original piece, so you keep that mentality, but eventually they're going to be gone, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, as long as everybody gets those what do they call? Artist editions out of the Gil Kane artist edition, get those all scanned at high quality and printed so that it may not be the original art, but at least everybody can still access the original as it was intended to be seen. And I think that's the wonderful thing about all those IDW and Marvel and whatnot, those art books. They're just props to Scott Dunby, and they're just keeping all that original art as is, despite the fact that a lot of it will be lost over time. I mean, at least we can see it as it was intended to be. Well, not intended to be seen, but as it was. Or
exactly. No, I own a few artist editions. Yeah, the work that Scott's been doing is, we need it, right? I mean, because
sure, I think so. I think so. Conservation,
right? And since he was an art dealer for so many years before he started working for IDW, he knows where a lot of that art is. So he knows the collectors to ask, because most of those collectors don't share that work, from many of those books on Comic Art Fans or anywhere socially. So thank goodness he's committed and interested in continuing to do those.
Sure, absolutely. No, I think he gets a lot out of it too, because he gets to. He was on holding up the Mazzucchelli pages from year one, and I think he was very happy to have those in his hands, judging by the big grin on his face.
The fact that he gets to go around to the artists, he goes to Paul Smith's house and gets to scan whatever pages he's got laying around. How fun would that be? I mean,
extremely fun. I know Paul, and it would be extremely fun.
I get it. I mean, he's living the perfect life. I think he doesn't have to buy it, but he gets to handle it. He gets to see it all, and then
Yeah,
no,
and hang out with the a lot of either the artists or the collectors who have bought it, and there's stories in that as well, isn't there?
yeah.
Great
So
stuff.
before we get to the art sale side of things, I've been looking at there have been some questions flowing through, and I just kind of was highlighting them.
Yep.
Some of which, because I actually never read whatever Dix was. I never read it. So Zhao said, I'd like to hear John talk about the series Dix. And then somebody else earlier had said,
really,
I learned so many new and vulgar terms from Dix. Thanks for helping expand my vocabulary. So
my pleasure. Well, mainly Garth, but you know, it's yeah. Dix was spun out of Troubled Souls because the Troubled Souls was quite a serious and one might say po-faced sort of comic, and the thing about growing up in Belfast is that it wasn't all bombs and, you know, violence and petrol stations exploding and people being kneecapped. Most people never saw any of that and just got on with their day-to-day lives. And so Garth and I wanted to do a story that basically didn't really have that as its main focus. And two of the sort of side characters in Troubled Souls, Doogie and Ivor, were these inept idiots, really, and we thought we'll spin them into their own series, and they become private detectives, thus dicks, because they are also dicks. You know, it was a very clever play on words. I trust you'll agree, and it only got cleverer as it went along, and ruder and more appalling. Towards the end, when I was drawing it, when we were working for Avatar, getting them published through Avatar, there was some of the stuff I was drawing, and I was just going, well, what in heaven's name am I doing here? Well, why am I drawing this? And some of the stuff was for covers and was utterly awful. I mean, it's pretty extreme stuff. So, right. Yeah, but funny as hell. I mean, I can read it all now again, and I will be laughing to bust a gut. The only thing that confuses me about it is how it translates, not just to America, but it's been translated in Spain and other European countries, I believe. And I just don't know how that works, because so much of the language is colloquialisms, you know, and accent and the way things are said, and I just don't know how that would translate over to another language. It's because so much of it is tied up in the saying of the word more than just the word. So it's kind of an odd thing. So but yeah, and not knowing,
it's left an impression on people. That's for sure, though.
Yeah. I again, that was another book that when I was drawing it, I was just going, oh, I don't give a flying, etc. What I'm doing here, I'm just going to have an absolute laugh, and so I did, and it was, and I think it was, you know, you can see the enthusiasm in the artwork, and the enjoyment in the artwork, and the unrestrained, I don't care. I mean, as much as you can in the writing as well. You know, Garth was just having a huge laugh doing the book. You know, it's and not all comics have to be super serious and mouse and whatnot. You know, they don't all have to be mouse or, you know, Watchmen or whatever the frig. You know, sometimes comics can be funny. Dare I say it? I mean, as amazing as it may be.
That's why we read strips in the paper, or, you know, or used to. I mean, we were just looking for a short laugh, right? I mean, and that's sort of maybe the approach there. So do you think was it Ennis then that maybe, you know, turned you away from, you know, the superhero side of, you know?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I think I often wonder if I had never met Garth, what my career would look like. It would be completely different. But I suppose most people probably have somebody they could say that about in their career, that, you know, maybe it wouldn't have gone the same way. Maybe not. I don't know, because it was quite a violent sort of U-turn that my career sort of took. There I was, all sort of with my sort of Spider-Man pencils and my Justice League pencils, and my earnestly sending them off every week to Marvel and DC. and my Dredd stuff, and then along comes Troubled Souls and Dicks and whatnot, and my career takes a bit of a U-turn. But I've had a great career, and I don't regret any of it. It's just one of those. What is it? The nail, but for the nail, or whatever the hell. Things may have been quite different. Yeah. So who knows? Curse you, Garth Ennis.
Let's see here. Neil wanted to know if you had, well, and I think we kind of already addressed this, but you have some, I know you have some covers up, and I think you mentioned you have something in the future with 2000 AD.
Sure. The thing about 2000 is it's been such a huge influence on me. And I love 2000. It's the longest running British comic ever. And it has so much history, and there's so many really great characters. I mean, when you've got somebody like Carlos Ezquerra, who is just like the best character designer, or one of the best, guys like Strontium Dog and Dredd and things like that, just such amazing looking characters. And there's so many that I still haven't drawn, and I keep sort of saying to Matt Smith, the editor, like, I would really like to draw ABC Warriors, or I would love to draw Johnny Alpha, Strontium Dog. There's so many great characters, and I haven't drawn a lot of them, and I want to tick them all off my my to-do list. And but the story that's coming up is a Dredd story. I have a magazine cover and a couple more covers for 2000 as well. One of them is going on this same issue as a story that Garth's doing as well. So it'll be another team up between me and Garth on 2000, which is nice. So yeah, I never want to stop working for 2000 AD, because to some degree or other, because I just love the characters so much, and it was such an important part of my comic reading childhood. I think it affected me, along with Action Comics, which was the sort of precursor to 2000, which was this super violent kids comic that eventually got banned because it was so violent. Along with it kind of completely changed my outlook on what comics could be. When you read things like Flash, which was the story that Pat Mills did about future people going back in time and harvesting dinosaurs for food, and it was just so violent. You were reading it going, oh my God, that dinosaur's head has come off and it's crushing those people while it still runs around, crushing them. It was just, So
you didn't have the comics code,
No, we had we did have. I mean, Action Comics, which was the precursor, did get banned. They did they did a comic called Kids Rule OK, and on the cover of one of the comics there was a kid with a chain about to clobber a policeman, and I think that was just too much for the sort of conservative elements in British society, and Action. There was a huge outcry and all the sort of terrible tabloid papers of the time, and it was shut down. So Pat Mills and Kev O'Neill, who worked on Action, just sort of went, well, what can we do? So they basically did the same thing, a super violent comic, but set it in the future, so that it didn't, so that when the cop was being beaten up, it was a future cop. When somebody was being violently dismembered, it was like somebody in the future. So it didn't have the same, people couldn't get quite so outraged by it, and didn't. And right. And there you have it. So,
they were smart to do that. I mean, at the end of the day, that's times were different then. Where people could get, well, I don't know. I guess we still have people who get outraged about things today, but I can see why. At that moment, yeah, but they were brilliant to make that switch, and again, really great characters that came out of it, like you said.
My God,
an amazing character designer, and
Sure.
has done
Yeah.
so much incredible work. It's got to
Yep.
be inspiring to anybody who was reading it back then, who wanted to break into comics, to see all these guys pretty much kind of doing things that just you weren't seeing that stuff in Marvel and DC.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, obviously, after a while, you had the independents spring up, and the black and white explosion and first comics and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and all that sort of stuff appearing, and Fantagraphics and Love and Rockets and things like that. I mean, I loved comics at that point, and just that 80s. The 80s were my period, I think, when I was just absolutely in my sweet spot, when I was still reading some Marvel and DC, and Marvel and DC were doing things like Dark Knight, Electro Assassin, pushing the envelope a bit in those ways. But then you had all these comics like Concrete and Love and Rockets and Mage and whatnot, all just coming out as well. It was just fantastic. The sort of that just anything could happen sort of vibe back then was incredible. In 2008, he was still really in its golden year. I mean, it was possibly declining by that point, as more of the amazing writers and artists got cherry picked by DC mainly. But there was still enough of them in 2000 at that point before they all got nabbed and went off for greener pastures. And I mean, I get it. I did this exact same thing. When DC come along and say, we'll give you great royalties and a bigger paycheck per page, it's hard to argue with. And you get to play in those sand pits as well, which is great fun too. And I've got to draw a lot of the characters that I've always wanted to draw over the years. Not all of them, but like
you just said, so the good thing is 2000 AD is still around and relevant, and those characters are waiting for you to tackle them.
Well, I mean, they are still relevant and still doing some great stories. Your man Henry Flint, who's drawing a lot of Dredd stuff at the moment. Him and Rob Williams are doing some terrific stuff on Dredd. It's some of the best stuff possibly ever. I mean, Henry Flint is just a phenomenal talent. He is so good in the Dredd universe. I mean, I try my best, and then I look at some of Henry's stuff, and I'm just like, oh, jeez. And I think he colors his own stuff, I believe, which helps as well. His coloring is just beautiful. It's just like very edible. I always like coloring that you look at it and go, oh yeah, that just makes me want to, if you want to get a knife and fork out and eat it. It just looks so delicious. And his coloring does that to me as well. He's just got a real sort of delicious edible quality to it. So yeah, big fan. And that I think is an important thing, is still to just being excited about the artists that are about, the other artists and that are coming up or new, or not even new, or just experimenting and doing stuff, always looking about it at the art that's going on. So yeah, just to get a bit excited by it. Otherwise, I mean, what's the point?
Exactly. Well, I'll give you two more questions and then we're going to jump into the sale. These are probably easy ones. One was from basically Webman. He said
hold on one second, Bill. Alexa, shush. My Alexa going off in the background telling me to put the dishwasher on.
See, the domestic things never stop, do they?
I'm such a domestic goddess. There's no doubt about that.
So yeah, Hitman ever in the DC film universe? Is that ever something that you'd want to see?
Of course. God, yes. Yeah, please. Yes. Please, James Gunn.
Make it happen.
I mean, I look at Hitman and I think, it's right up James Gunn's alley, I suppose. It's got that slightly crazy, offbeat sort of element to it. It's violent, but it's humorous, but it's got that huge serious undertone running through it. I think would make a terrific TV show. Could really get its due with TV because you could build properly, run it for 5 seasons, and you could just tell all those stories and go into them properly, and give them the, what they need. I mean, how good would that Superman episode be on telly?
Right.
It'd be terrific. Just like one episode, and there's Tommy doing his thing, and there's Superman having that crisis of confidence, and just a big chat of them on the roof. It would be top telly, absolutely top telly, wouldn't it? So yeah, I'd love to see Hitman appear. Who the hell knows?
Right. We've seen, the boys have done so well. Peacemaker came out. I mean, and those are things that we wouldn't have ever seen, 5 or 6 years ago. And now they're out there and they're, people want more, so Hitman would fit right in there, really.
I couldn't argue with you on that front, Bill. No, not at all. I think, DC would probably do pretty well out of a Hitman TV show. I mean, I'm not saying I wouldn't either. It'd be kind of lovely. Kind of lovely too. That would be nice, but we shall see. We shall see. I have no clue. Honestly, I don't know.
Last question then for you was from Grimjaggers, asking you if you'd ever drawn a character that you really disliked, an assignment that you didn't want to do, but you had to do to get through it.
Well, no, not really. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I mean, the closest that would come to it would be the color work, just that, all those pages of color work. And it wasn't like it was awful all the time. I mean, I enjoyed myself a lot, even when I was doing that, but it's just not my wheelhouse, painting. And so it was a struggle a lot of the time. Whereas for the most part, when I'm drawing in black and white, it's just purely fun and enjoyment. I mean, obviously, like any job, you have days when you're not on form, and sometimes it can be a bit of a grind. But most of the comics I've drawn, I've enjoyed the hell out of. Yeah, I can't think of any that I haven't really. No.
Well, good. That's great. And in an almost 40-year career, to be able to say that, that's.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to end up having to do this again sometime, John, because I had like a list of things that, that were things we could talk about. And I don't even think we got halfway through through my list.
Okay. Well, I did tell you I waffled on a bit.
No, it wasn't really. Well, it's because it's been a lot of fun, but we're going to look at art for sale now. We got we have 18 pieces to look at. And the thing is, I know we're going to have stuff to talk about when we're looking at the art, because it's, across a good, swath of your career here. Some pieces, we have some demon pages, some Hitman pages. So we're talking artwork that, is 30 years old. So, and then we have current stuff too. So, we'll have a lot to chat about. But for those of you who are new to us doing art sales on this channel, there's a couple things that I've got a couple slides just kind of outline, how you claim artwork and how we handle payment and all that sort of thing. So I can show those right now. The main thing to know is I do have all the artwork in hand that we're going to show off today. So when you, if and when you claim a piece of artwork today, you'll be dealing directly with me. My email address is bill@comicartfans.com. The way you claim an artwork in the chat is you just type the word claim and the lot number. All 18 artworks will have a lot 1, lot 2 written on the slide that we show. So you just need to type the word claim and the lot number after it. And the first person who does that in the chat will be the one to get it. And, sometimes the chat can get a little funny based on the way YouTube handles things if you're watching from YouTube. But in the studio here, we see everything flow properly. So we know we'll be able to easily tell who tried to claim something first. But in terms of payment, we'd like to get payment within 48 hours. I saw there was a question in the chat about time payments, and there are a few covers here. They're quite affordable. But if somebody needed 30, 60 days or something like that to complete a payment with me, I've got no problem taking care of John and then waiting for the funds to come in. If you needed to do that, but that'd be something we would talk about after the show. But in terms of payment, we definitely prefer Zelle and Venmo. I know that's not available to international buyers. So we do have PayPal. We do charge a fee when we have to use PayPal. So we do try to avoid that as best as possible. I'm always even open to getting a check, just so everybody knows, as long as it's put in the mail immediately. So that's the way we prefer to handle it. But again, anybody buying stuff, especially who are new, I'll work with you. We'll make it work out, because at the end of the day, we want to get John's artwork in your hands. And shipping and handling isn't a part of the prices we show you today. So domestic shipping is $30, international $65. I pack everything in Masonite and regularly ship outside of the country. And everything has to date has arrived safe and sound. And it's because I use the thickest Masonite you can buy at the hardware store, and it works really well. So those are the kind of ground rules for the art sale today. Pretty straightforward. Again, just remember to type the word claim and then lot number in the chat, and away we'll go. And I didn't really I was looking at my order here, John, and I'm kind of a little all over the place. I didn't follow any.
Bit like me.
I should have started chronologically or something, but I didn't. But I did at least group everything. So.
Okay.
So we're actually gonna start off with some recent Marvel work, and go ahead and show that. And so this is from a What If Dark Carnage page from just last year. It's lot number 1, priced at $275. It's from issue 1, page 4, and it's on 11 by 17. And it does come with a prelim, like a lot of the pieces we're going to show you today. You can see this now as the pencil prelim for the finished piece. And so this has been and some of your 30-year-old pieces came with prelims too, John. So is that typically how your workflow goes, where you do a pencil prelim like that?
Yeah, the thing I hate most, if we're talking about hating stuff, is the thing I hate most is is rubbing out pencils. It's just a horrible job. So very early on, I just started, penciling on one piece of paper, and then light boxing it. These days, my layouts are usually done on the back of the script of the artwork. I mean, if you look at that layout, it may well be there may be some script on the back of it. And then I'll put it in, scan it into the computer, blow it up to correct size, fudge about with it if there's anything needs correcting, using and then print it out and then light box it that way, so that I don't have to do all that horrible rubbing out of pencils, which just you never don't smudge some ink. You have to, the pencils are so heavy that when you're rubbing them out, you rub away some of the ink lines. So that
you don't want to add more work. Yeah, that makes sense. We thought about that. That's because you're right. Because if you smudge it, you're going to end up having to put some white out in there to fix it.
Yeah. And then as soon as you add whiteout to a page, when you scan the page, the whiteout is always picked up by the scanner. No matter what, you get a little bit of fuzziness, and then you have to go in and clean that out. And it's just, I like to use as little whiteout as possible these days anyway. I think I used to use a lot more back when I was working on Hitman, but these days I used to use as little as possible because of, scanning it myself and realizing that it picks up so much, the scanner. I'm sure there's somebody cleverer than me, and I would be able to eliminate all those little foibles much more quickly, but I'm a bit of an idiot when it comes to computers and computers.
But it works for you. That's the thing, and you gotta stay in your comfort zone. So I think it's kind of cool, because as many art sale shows as I've done, I don't think maybe one other artist for just a couple pieces did that, but it's definitely part of your part of your process. I think that's we as art collectors love. I think by and large love the process. If we can't see the pencil lines underneath it or the notes in the margins, something like this is even better. So I have to say, Jordan picked up lot 1. So thank you, Jordan.
Thank you, Jordan.
Anthony tried to get it as well, and he came in just after Jordan. So
sorry, Anthony.
Yeah, but
thank you, Jordan.
There's 17 other pieces, so a little bit to go around. So we have one more page from this book. Let me hide this comment and show the other page. And let's see here. This is lot number 2, same issue. Issue 1 of What If Dark Carnage from 2023. It's on 11 by 17 as well. This is a very, very nice splash page. It's $300. You got Dormammu on there, and again, this one comes up. Yeah, it has another pencil prelim piece. It's just it's fantastic. I mean, we don't get the opportunity to see both these, and I see Earthquake came in there. Earthquake, just remember, always use the number though, just to make sure we know you're talking about lot number 2. I'm sure you are, and I can see Anthony and Maki Pupu also tried to claim this piece as well. So, but Earthquake did come in ahead of time, unless by some weird chance he's 2 minutes behind us and he's trying to claim lot 1, but I don't think so.
Yeah, this was such a fun book to draw. I mean, honestly, I'm not aware of much about Carnage, but when I discovered that I was working with Larry Hama, the writer on it, I was so thrilled, because Larry Hama's like an absolute god in comics, so he is, and I was just like made up that I was going to be working with him, and it was just a riot to draw. It was madness and so much fun. Yeah, so I just got to cut loose a bit on it as well.
Yeah, and the coloring on that's crazy. I mean, that's absolutely beautiful. But it's just such a garish palette, but it works really well.
Well, Mike Spicer's an awesome colorist, and I work with him whenever I possibly can, and he does such a terrific job. Yeah, and I do tend to push Mike to go a bit crazy on the colors when it comes to stuff like that. Just go mad, Mike, and he knows how to do that.
Well, we've got a few commission pieces, mostly published today. And so this is our first commission piece, and it has a pencil prelim too. So I'll go ahead and show this one. It's lot number 3. It's Daredevil, and this is on A3, so it's 11.5 by 16.5, priced at $400. It's got a little bit of ink wash in this. It's got that taupey cross hatching you got going in there, which I love. And like I mentioned, it has the color or a pencil prelim, to accompany it, which is fun for something like this. And I'd love to see a Daredevil book drawn by you when I see something like this, John.
I have drawn Daredevil in the Punisher story I did with Garth, the Confederacy of Dunces. Daredevil, Wolverine, Spider-Man, and the Hulk all showed up.
I missed that.
It's you can get it if you buy like Garth's Punisher runs. It'll be in there. I can't remember which issue numbers they were, but I did draw Daredevil in that. I mean, I'm not 100%. I wasn't 100% happy with the way I drew Daredevil or Wolverine or Spider-Man for that fact in that Punisher run. I was happy with how I drew the Punisher, but I think I wasn't so happy with the way I drew those characters, and I feel like I've got a much more of a handle on the character now. And yeah, I'd love a go at Daredevil. It'd be terrific to draw him. He's in my wheelhouse. I do tend to sort of veer more towards the sort of dark, brooding, nasty sort of anti-hero types, which is odd because I'm just like the nicest person you could ever meet, except for my violent temper, I suppose. I don't. But I do lean towards the more sort of broody, moody stuff. And that Dee Dee thing was just me just larking about, and I thought my favorite bit of it was actually the building in the background with Daredevil's silhouette, but using the framework of the fire escape to form it as well. That sort of worked out. It was almost like I meant to do it or something.
Sure.
But it was almost like I was being clever for a minute.
I think you were being clever, not like you were being clever. But Paulo picked this one up, so thank you, Paulo.
Paulo, thank you very much. Cheers, man. Appreciate it.
Let's see here. Lot 4. I think we're here. I'll just go ahead and bring this one up. A little switching gears a little bit. And again, we didn't get to talk about the boys at all in the interview, but we've got 3 pages from the boys. So this is lot 4, priced at $300. It's drawn on 11 by 17. There is not a pencil prelim with this particular one. There are with the next 2. This is 33, page 2. And who doesn't love the boys, right?
Well, absolutely. The by the way, this page and the other 3 pages were inked by Keith Burns, who worked with me on the boys. So Keith will be getting his percentage of the money. Don't worry, folks. I'm not going to short the anchor. So any money I make on these pages, Keith will get his bit. And Keith is Keith's an ex-student of mine. But he's now gone on to greater things, where he is a fabulous painter, and he paints a lot of World War II fighter plane type stuff, and it was actually won the Aviation Artist of the Year award a couple of years back. So Keith's a serious artist and a fantastic artist and a terrific guy too. But yeah, the boys story here was issue 33 of the boys. Yeah, you've got it written there. And it was great fun. This was Butcher taking apart the Stormfront character, who of course looked a whole lot different in the comic to the TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, Stormfront in the TV show is superb. It was so great. What a character. Just awful.
You never want to get your nose bit off, though. I'll tell you. I went back and read this issue. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
No, yeah, it is. That's yeah, you're going to remember that. If it happens, it's ouch. Dear God.
Yes, but congrats to Jordan for picking up this piece. So
thank you again, Jordan. Thank you. Jeez.
So we'll just go ahead and take a look at lot number 5, because it's from the same issue, and this one's priced at $350. And again, it's awesome. It's on 11 by 17, and it does have a pencil prelim piece. I can show that as well. So that's not like the one panel wasn't filled in, but there's notes in it. And I loved how you told the inker to kind of do whatever they want on the TV screen. And
and Keith, of course, put fighter planes in.
But you do play, now it all makes sense, because you said that's what he's doing today. That's amazing.
Yeah, great, nice one, Keith. yeah. Our technique for working together in the boys was great fun, and often we would sit in the same studio and just sort of bash away at things. But yeah, Keith's a terrific artist.
Oh, without question. And
so the boys, it's just great fun. Just so much fun. Oh, dear. I haven't watched the latest season, I don't think. My problem with the show is just the exploding heads. I just spend my entire time watching it, sort of gritting my teeth, going, is that person's head going to explode? Oh God. And when it does happen, it's just like, oh no, God. The bit in the courtroom, where just everybody's heads explode. I almost had to go into therapy after that episode. Yeah. So there's one thing drawing it, and then another thing seeing it on the screen.
Actually seeing it, yeah. Well, Grimjagger's like this piece, apparently because it has A-Train and Homelander in it, so they had to claim it. Very nice.
Thank you, Clara. Much appreciated.
Just ahead of Rich, so thank you, Rich, for almost getting it. But again, we still have a few more pieces to look at here. Let's go ahead and take a look at lot number 6. So this is one other page from the boys 33. It's page 6, and again, this was a fun fight scene at the hospital there, and again, 11 by 17 on this one, and it does have a pencil prelim piece to go along with it. It's priced at $400. Here's the pencil prelim to go with it.
Yep. The pencil prelims are on artboard as well, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
As I recall, in these, not in the back of the scripts or anything.
Right. No, not at all.
Yeah. I wasn't 100% sure, but that's what I remember doing. Was I was penciling on artboard, and then Keith then got on a separate piece of artboard. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh, and thank you, Edgar.
Yeah.
Or Edgard. Sorry. Thank you.
Edgard. Yes.
Much appreciated.
I do have the art here, so I could actually show it off if I could hold the art and run the mouse at the same time. So here you can see the original or finished piece and the pencil prelim for these done on the same size board.
Cool.
Well, these are really nice. See, the fun thing for me is I get to feel like I own these for just a little bit.
You're Scott Dunbier for a few minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's true. Well, it's fun. I'll be honest. I've had more fun. I've been in the hobby involved one way or another for like the last 22 years. But the last couple of years, getting to be involved working with some sales and working with the artists has been the most fun because I get to see so much artwork that I can that's half it. We like looking at it even if we can't own it. So
oh sure, absolutely. One of the most amazing experiences I had was when I last went to New York Comic Con, and there was up at the Cartoonist Society in Manhattan. They had an exhibition of Marvel art, and myself and Paul Holden, who were who's over with me, we walked up to the Cartoonist Society and looked at the exhibition, and there was Romita Spider-Man and Ditko Spider-Man and just Walt Simonson doing this. And it was amazing. It was an amazing exhibition. And then we walked upstairs to the first floor because there was a little bar up there. And there was an exhibition that wasn't even being advertised. It had been on, but they hadn't taken it out, of EC artwork. So there was all this amazing EC artwork around the walls as well. And it was incredible. And it's just, like you say, you just sit and stare at it and you can see where the brush stroke has gone or the whiteout is. And it's just amazing delving into it. And I always love to just sort of sit there going, God, Wally Wood was just, his pen or his brush was actually touching that page. And you can almost sort of throw yourself back in time and sort of sit in the same seat as Wally Wood. Well, I wouldn't want to actually, I don't know if I'd really want to sit here. Wally. It's an absolute
that was at the Society of Illustrators, I think, right?
Pardon?
That was at the New York Society of Illustrators, I believe.
That's it. Yes, sorry.
Yeah,
yes,
that's a fantastic resource for anybody who's making the trip to New York. If the society is open, I don't know. I think they have some kind of odd hours, but it's worth a trip because there's always a good show.
Well, I mean, we went upstairs to have a drink and we sat at the bar, and behind the bar was just an original Norman Rockwell painting. Like a huge Norman Rockwell painting that I had never seen before in any Norman Rockwell books. And there it is, just behind the bar. And I was just sitting there going, cheers, Paul. And just, incredible. It was an amazing day. And just the sheer volume of incredible artwork was almost overwhelming, but you tried your best.
Oh, Samuel says they're open most days. Yeah, I've only been there when I go to New York Comic Con. So thank you for that. Right. Society of Illustrators, everybody. Next time.
Well worth a visit. Now
we're switching over to some DC stuff. We've got Demon artwork coming up. I think we have a couple pages from that. So I think we have 3, if I'm not mistaken. So lot number 7 is from Demon 47. So it's page 22.
Yep.
It's on 11 by 17. It does come with a pencil prelim as well. I love the colors that were done in Demon during this period too. I mean, this is it's just a fantastic page, and that nice. Again, the way you drew the Demon is the way that's when I was actually picking up copies of the Demon was when you were drawing it. Thank
you, Bill.
Love the way you handled the character. And here, let me show the pencil piece too. So again, you can see this is over 30 years ago, and that was the approach you were doing. And both are on 11 by 17 board as well.
Sure. And this was me inking myself. And I can't remember. I think what I used to do was, this was pre-computers, of course. So I would pencil it, and then I would go to the copy shop and photocopy it onto paper and then trace it on the board, because obviously if you drew it on a DC board and then put another DC board on it, it was too thick to see through properly. So I had to go and make a photocopy of the page, and I didn't have a photocopier in my house, or not a big enough one. I had a little photocopier at that point, so I had to go out to a shop and make photocopies of it and things like that. But again, with this page, look at that Willie Schubert lettering. Oh, so good. I just loved the way he did the Demon's letter type, and just all his sound effects are just terrific. I just love Willie's stuff. And then, of course, there it is right on the page. So it's just lovely. I so wish I could get all my artwork lettered on the board like back then. It would just be terrific. But it's just, financially, it's that's too much. And obviously, when you're working with DC or what have you, it's just done. You know, it just gets done. But I mean, if I could manage it on Dead Eyes or on
We
any of
got
the
to find
other,
a local letterer, John. There's got to be, I mean, I'm sure it's not easy because it's
yeah.
people are all doing it digitally.
There are local letters, but I think most of them, like you say, everybody works digitally. You know, you have to go really old school to find guys who can still do that. It's again, it's one of those lost arts, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, and I'm sure the publishers
which
don't
is
want you
tragic.
doing it either, right? At the end of the day, the publisher wants it done faster too, so
Of
that
course.
they're probably, they just don't want to see it either. So nobody's encouraging you to do it the way you wish you could do it. And
No.
it's all about saving time and
And money.
I get
And
money.
money. I get it. I get it. You know, times are tight, and you know, it's what's the most efficient. You know, without sacrificing too much quality.
Right.
But it's such a shame that it's such a lost art. I mean, guys like Willie and oh god, your man who lettered Walt Simonson, Orzechowski on the X-Men. Wasn't it the X-Men? He lettered.
He worked with Claremont for years. But that's smart. You know, he kept a guy that could keep the consistency of the book. The lettering was important. You wanted it to look the same, you know, and so
absolutely.
I mean, it's
no. I mean, it's just a shame. It's just a shame. But you know, time marches on and and all that.
Yes. All right, we have 2 more demon pages to show off, and next up is another page from this one's 48. That's page number 9. Lot number 8 is 225. You don't have any demon on it, but this is all you. I mean, it's fantastic. There is no pencil prelim with this one, but it is on 11 by 17. And look at this thing; it's just awesome. I mean,
when I first got this story to do, obviously. What I decided was I'd better go look at somebody who knew how to draw tanks. And so I went off and started looking at lots of Joe Kubert artwork. And basically the way he did explosions with tanks and blew tanks up, you know, and I just sort of looked at a lot of Kubert and Russ Heath. You know, I mean, if you're gonna, like I said before, if you're gonna steal from the best, and you know, I went and just poured over Kubert pages. I mean, it's such a terrible job, isn't it? Where I have to go for my research, I have to go and look at Joe Kubert and Russ Heath artwork. Right. Oh, boo-hoo, poor me! what a tragedy. But yeah, that was terrific fun to do. I mean, and that whole run of the Demon was just absolutely hilarious and great fun to do. It's just you know,
that's in your first year on the book too, so I mean, this is
yeah well, we I think we sort of hit the ground running. I mean, Garth and I knew each other well enough, and I talked with Dan Raspler, the editor, and just said, you know, Dan, Demon was doomed. I mean, it wasn't selling particularly well, and I just said to Dan, can I just do what I want here? And you know, no disrespect to Jack Kirby, who is one of my favorite artists ever, but I'm just going to do it differently. I'm just going to mess about with this and take it on a different tack. And Dan, to his credit, just said, well, whatever, on you go, John, and have fun. And so my Demon does veer considerably from the Kirby Demon. And you know, I love Kirby's Demon. I love all his work. Well, all his work, full stop, actually. But the stuff he was doing, the you know, like OMAC and the Demon and things for DC are just incredible. I mean, just those double page splashes he tended to do at that time, just and on the Black Panther. You know, the frog story, King Solomon's Frog. I mean, the stuff that Kirby was doing, those DPSs are just insane. You just look at them and go, how? You know, where does this man come from? I mean, it's just it's insane. And obviously, you know, as much as I thought I was reasonably speedy back then, you know, when you're dealing with Jack Kirby, and no, you weren't reasonably speedy. You were crawling along at a snail's pace. You know, it's phenomenal.
Nobody was like Jack at the end of the day, as far as being able to get work done.
Nope,
just
not really. No, I don't think so. No, nobody came close. Yeah,
well,
I mean,
I was going to let everybody know, we're going to show lot 9 next. But before we do, I wanted to give everybody a few seconds. When you're watching a stream, sometimes it could buffer or something on you. It could put you like a second behind your fellow viewer, right? It kind of happens. Or YouTube just starts you a couple seconds later based on where you're at. If you're on YouTube, right straight down below my name, it'll say live. If you click that should move you as close to live as everybody else in the audience. And if you're on a web browser, you can just hit refresh and it'll do the same thing. But for those of you who see a claim happen potentially just as the art's being shown, it probably was being shown for a couple seconds before you got to see it, because your stream is just a hair behind somebody else. So I've now given you all the chance to get this up to speed with your fellow buyers. And I should have said
somebody just mentioned in the comments, Dan Raspler. I met that guy in the 90s. And I've got to say, Dan was a great editor. I loved working with Dan. Rafa, I loved working with Dan. And he also wrote a terrific comic as well, Young Heroes in Love, which probably very few people remember.
I don't remember.
No, you see, it's a shame. It just didn't. It didn't get the traction it should have got. It was a great wee series. Just go and check it out if you can find it. I don't know if they ever did a TPB of it or not, but much respect to Dan. It was a great series. I loved that. And Young Heroes in Love. It was fun. It was fun. Yeah, and this is the thing. These days, I never see my editors. I never talk to them. It's weird. Back in the 90s and the 80s and whatever, when I first broke in, you were on the phone with your editor all the time. And I was over in the DC offices, or the editors were over in the UK. It so rarely happens these days, and it's kind of, I miss the sort of I miss that connection, with the with the guys or gals I was working with. It's just a shame. But anyway, hey Dan, if you're listening.
Jewish Dragons remembers the book, so he said it was really fun.
Good man. There you go. See, it does exist. I'm not insane. What a relief.
All right, well, we're going to lot number 9. This is the last demon page that we've got, and it's you call it semi-splash. It's 2/3 splash. So this is $400 from the same issue 48. It's page 12 on 11 by 17. No prelim with this one either, but boy, you could draw a horse.
I thank you. I do try my best with horses. I guess it was like hands when I was starting to figure out how to draw, and everybody has their weak points. So you sort of I just sat and drew a lot of hands, and likewise horses. I drew a lot of horses, and I feel I'm all right at horses. I'm not the best. I'm no Frazetta or anything. Sorry, choke, cough, splutter. But it's I can. Yeah, they don't tend to end up looking like sort of strange dogs and something, which is a relief. But thank you, Greg, for picking that page up as well.
Yes, congrats to Greg for that one.
Yeah, but again, what fun stuff to draw. Just absolute madness and great fun to do. Yeah. Right, a bit like, it has vibes of the Carnage story, really. I when I was doing that Carnage story with Larry Hama, that was the closest I think I felt to be drawing the demon that I've come for a while, because it was just so maniacal and crazy and just so much fun. Yeah. So, thanks, Larry. You made me feel young again.
Well, we appreciate everybody who tried to claim this. Greg got it, but Jim and Gabe and Maki Pupu and Anthony.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Wanted that one. So this next piece is a little more current, but still DC centric. And I didn't change the slide to tell me what it was from, but this is lot 10. It's $400 on 11 by 17. It's
I can tell you what it's from. It's from that Harley Quinn romance special that DC put out last year. I've lost track of the time. I think it was last year. And it was a short story in that. featuring my favorite roguish English gent, John Constantine, who I always try to draw like he's just sort of finished a 6-day bender and and has slept in his clothes for the entire 6 days. I always do try to draw him looking like that, just really pretty sleazy and disgusting, because he's that kind of guy.
You draw him well.
Thank you.
But so yeah, that's because what was the email you sent me? A Harley Quinn Valentine 100-page giant. But yeah, this is I like the your approach to the inking on these. I just think it suits you right now.
Thank you very much. Yeah. I mean, there's, like you said earlier, a bit of Topi going on. Quite a lot of Mick McMahon when he was doing his Slain or Last American work. And I mean that style that Mick sort of developed with the little bits missing, because as he scribbled, was a complete accident. It was just something he was filling in a black, and he just did it quickly with a pen and left spaces that he thought he would go and fill in later. And then he looked at it and went, "Oh, hold on, have I hit on something here?" And that was that. Yeah.
All right. Well, this one's still available. Plot 10. So we'll keep moving here. I think I've got. Let me see here. The next lot is a commission piece, and but a character I think everybody in the chat loves. It's a Hitman commission on A3, 11.5 by 16.5, priced at $500. And you knocked this one out of the park.
Thank you.
I mean, it's awesome, and and it's just huge, right? Because it's edge to edge basically. So it's an impressive piece.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, obviously, drawing Tommy is like sort of breathing to me these days. Even though it's been years since I drew the comic, it was such a long run, and took up such a huge portion of my life that, I could draw Tommy in my sleep, I think, and sometimes have, I suppose, when those deadlines were crunching. Yeah, he's terrific fun to draw, but I have noticed that I draw him less and less these days with his coat on and more with his coat off. I think the big coat thing sort of obscures the sort of figure work to a degree, and I tend to like to sort of draw. Plus, you get to see the gun holsters and all that sort of stuff, and you can, I just enjoy drawing them without the coat so much these days. Yeah. I think the coat was like the scarf. If you remember when Tommy was first created, he wore a red scarf, for God's sakes, which was so terrible. And Garth and I thankfully wised up reasonably quickly and got him out of that scarf. But I think the big coat as well is kind of a 90s thing as well. I mean, and I don't know. Would he suit a smaller jacket type of thing these days? I don't know, but I do tend to prefer to draw Tommy without the big coat so much these days.
Well, you left the big zipper in there. That's important.
Oh yeah, there you go. But that's a refined zipper. That's toned down compared to the way I used to draw them. Good Lord, they were like the sailing boat. They were the sails on a sailing boat, the zippers back then. They're just ridiculous. Good Lord, what was I thinking?
Well, yeah. Well, we have 2 Hitman pages coming up next, and I think both of these don't have prelims with them. If I'm not
Did this one? Are we? Somebody? What's that? Did that one go, or the Hitman?
Oh yeah, this one went. I'm sorry. You know what? I should have. I saw it in the chat, and I highlighted it.
I saw it in the chat. Well, Jason, thank you very much.
Jason
really
appreciate you picking up. Yeah, Nathan and Jordan were also very interested in this piece, but Jason is the one who picked that one up. So congrats to you, Jason.
Cheers, Jason. Hope you enjoy it.
Jason mentions that he bought a 6-pack dog wielder pinup.
Oh, right, okay.
Last year. So it's going to come next to it.
Thank you, Jason. Yes, that was a nice drawing. I thought of 6-pack and dog welder. I'm glad you got it. Okay.
Fantastic. All right. So here is our first published page. This is lot 12, This is from Hitman 13, so pretty early in the run. We've got it priced at $9.50. It's on 11 by 17. And I assume, John, you don't have too many of these pages left?
No, not really. And I don't normally sell them, and it's expensive, but I don't care. It's just, I honestly don't really want to sell Hitman pages at the moment because I have got so few left. But I figured I should have a few in here. And this has got Tommy and Nat on it, but you have to squint, I suppose. But it's an early page, and I don't have too many of those left. So, and it's from one of my favorite stories, Zombie Night at the Gotham Aquarium. So, great fun, just good fun times. Yeah.
No, this is a nice page. I mean, having been able to see it up close, and you do get Tommy on it, and in two of those panels, right?
Is it in two? Okay.
I think it's two. Well, I don't have it in front of me now. I set them to the side, but yeah, no. So, but I get it. When you get down to here, these are these are the pages that I think have to probably mean the most to you, right? I mean, this is kind of helpful find you in some ways with
most definitely. I mean, it will of course say on my gravestone, John Hitman McCrea, and people will infer completely the wrong thing from it.
Mm-hmm.
But there you go.
All right. Well, this one's still out there, everybody. I do have one other page from Hitman to show, and that one is let's see here, switching my slides to slide 13. So this is that almost full splash page, and it's from 59, priced at $9.50. And this is as grisly in person as it looks on the screen there. This must have been a lot of fun to draw.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sometimes it's best to throw a lot of shadow onto things, but if you look at the published artwork and you look at the original, DC decided that a lot of it was just too gory and erased things. Also, if you actually look at the original artwork, if you hold it in your hand and look at it, you can see there's lots of trailing intestines that have been erased by the in-house staff.
I did notice that.
Yeah, they just find it too much. So it's interesting. I always find it sort of interesting. I think the first time I encountered this was on the Demon, where I drew the Demon punching somebody's head off, and the head was spiraling up towards camera in Scanners style, spiraling up, and I had a trail of spinal column following the head, and bits of gore, but ludicrously cartoony, but they erased all the spinal column. Just thought it was too much, and I always sort of went, well, why? It's already, the head's flying off. I mean,
right.
You're not hiding anything from anybody here. And yeah, exactly, Brent. Yes. You're damn right. I mean, I get it. I mean,
give them what the readers want. I mean, that's what you were trying to do, John.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. But you see what I've got to fight with against here?
I get it.
I mean, everything's much more relaxed these days. You can show quite a lot these days.
Yes, yeah.
Some of the comics I read, even I am shocked. Yeah, but then I am an old man, and I like shouting at clouds. So.
All right. Well, this one's still available too. So the two Hitman pages are still out there. We have we got 5 more pieces to look at. We've got some 2000 AD stuff coming up next. So lot 14 is Judge Dredd, Shooter's Night. This is part 2 from the story. It's on 11 by 17. There is no pencil prelim to this one, but again, we've got some dead bodies in this one, and Dredd is on the case. So this one's priced at $400.
Yeah, I know John Wagner quite well. He used to edit the Judge Dredd magazine, and of course, it's John Wagner. So I've known him for ages, but I'd never worked with him, and I just sort of basically said to him one time, I met up with him, John, if I don't draw a Judge Dredd story that you've written before I die, I'll be very pissed off. So he wrote me a Judge Dredd story. In fact, I worked with him a second time after this one. And it's always a pleasure to work on a script with John. His writing is so sharp and he knows Dredd so well. So you're going to get a quality Dredd story. And this was great fun. I mean, very grim and brutal, all about serial killers and just as expected, pretty brutal story. Unlike the second story I did with him, which was about the giant robot judges, which was just crazy and great fun. But yeah, this one was very brutal and more like a dark cop show. Mm-hmm. Really, than a Dredd story, which, you know, that's the great thing about Dredd. It, like Hitman, it can flick between, and I suppose that's what influenced Garth and myself and a lot of other writers is the 2000 AD thing. You take that sensibility, you know, that dark, that comedy, alongside that brutal violence, alongside that crazy madcapness that all coexist in the Dredd universe. You've got all these sort of mad things like boing, which is this sort of spray substance that you spray around people, and then they can bounce around in it. Mm-hmm. You know, and just mad stuff. And Otto Sump and his ugly clinics, where beautiful people go to get made ugly. You know, so you get all this mad, crazy crap, and then you get these really serious sort of stories as well, and just that dark sense of humor was, I think, that 2000 AD did so well, and John Wagner, Alan Grant, and so on, all sort of brought to the table, really influenced a generation of creators who came after.
Right. Yeah. Well, listen, Corey Rust, congratulations.
Thank you, Corey.
I saw Anthony was also interested in that one too, but Corey's claim was first, so we appreciate that. Corey's sending me a gift in the mail. I can't wait to get to open that up on air on one of my shows. I sent him some stickers that he needed, and now he's sending something my way. Now I've got to mail him something else. I'm going to send you more stickers, Corey, for the pickup on that one. Let's see here.
Corey.
Next up, lot 15. So we're going. This is a Rogue Trooper Classics #6 cover. It's priced at $1,200. It's on 11 by 17. And it's awesome, and this was done for IDW, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, IDW were reprinted a lot of 2000 AD stuff back at this time, and they did I think it was 8 issues this ran for Rogue Trooper Classics, basically reprinting the very early Rogue stories. So you've got Cam Kennedy and Dave Gibbons and Colin Wilson and guys like that in there. And to be asked to do the covers for it is both intimidating and very flattering. And I had a great time doing that series of covers. Just terrific. I mean, Rogue is another one of those superb characters. And of course, there's a film coming out of old Rogue next year by I've forgotten his name. This is the other problem with being an old man is your memory goes. And
at least you knew there was a movie coming out. I didn't know. So
yes, it's. Awesome. I think it's finished filming. It's going to be animated. I'm not sure in what sort of style it will be animated. I presume some sort of computer done. Sorry, my phone alarm going off. Some sort of computer animated style, possibly, but it's by the guy who directed Moon, and my memory. And Moon is a terrific film, and he's a huge comic fan as well, and so I've got a lot of faith that it's going to be a pretty good film. So it's coming. what
the
the heck?
Robert and Grimm dork.
Can anybody tell me who it is?
Yeah, Duncan
Jones. Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Right.
Duncan Jones. Thank you. Yes. So, yeah. But that is coming out next year. So this is kind of a prescient thing, I guess. And Garth's doing quite a few Rogue Trooper stories for 2000 at the moment, and I have a Rogue cover on one of those as well. So that's nice as well. But yeah, this was a great run to draw covers for. Good fun.
All right. Well, this one is still out there, everybody, and we'll take a look at lot 16 next. And this was a 30th anniversary print image. I couldn't find the published image for the print, but I tried. But you get Rogue Trooper, you get Dredd on this thing,
and lots of Norts. And
yes.
This one was also inked by Keith Burns again. My old boys conspirator. So yeah, and Keith does the great tech and stuff. So he put a lot of effort into the the big Nort jump ship at the top of the page there. Yeah, I think it was a 30th anniversary print. I mean, now that's nearly 20 years ago, obviously.
Right.
2008, he's 47 years old as of a couple of days ago, which is insane. And, that's how long that comic has been running for, 47 years. So this was done 17 years ago. So I don't know how much of it's online, but I can't even remember if it was colored or not, or if it was in black and white. I'm not 100% sure.
Either way, it's a gorgeous piece, and
thank you very much.
I love it. And I for some reason I thought it was Rinks, but now I know.
No, Keith. Yeah, did we not sign it?
Again, I said.
Geez, that's unusual for me. Usually, I make sure I sign my artwork, but I can't see my signature anywhere there, so I may have forgotten. Oops.
I know the Rogue Trooper cover was signed.
Yeah.
See, no, I'm looking at it. I don't see a signature on it.
Nope. Well, Keith and I forgot to sign it. Oh well. Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, honestly, I drew it.
You still get out the shows, but okay. So this one's still available. Lot 16. I have. We got 2 more to show, right? We've got. Let me switch over to lot 17 here. A commission piece, martial law on A3, 11.5 by 16.5. Comes with a pencil prelim as well. I can switch over that so you can see it. The pencil prelim is pretty much as finished and nice as the inked version on this one, John.
It's the same size as well, I believe, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, again, this is me and my love of Kev O'Neill. Somebody asked me a couple of years ago to do a commission of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And League is one of my favorite comics. It's just so good. And Kev's work on it is terrific. But also, of course, I've got anything Kev O'Neill works on is just going to be just brilliant. He's just such a individualist. I mean, 2000 AD has produced some of the most unusual and individual artists out there, guys like Mick McMahon and Kev. And there's just nobody like Kev. But he has been a big influence in my stuff. And so after doing that League commission, I thought to myself, if I've got a spare moment, I must draw martial law. So I did. And actually, this cover is based very loosely on an old Daredevil cover where Daredevil, is it Daredevil? I think it's Daredevil. Daredevil cover where Daredevil's being shot by the Punisher.
Yes.
It's a Klaus Janson cover. And I based it loosely on that for some reason. I guess maybe I just couldn't get an image I wanted. And for some reason that just popped into my head, that shot of the Punisher shooting Daredevil. And I thought, I'll look at that for influence. It's, it's very, very loose, but you can see it. But yeah, this was great fun to do. Just all that crazy detailing and mad stuff. And of course, Kev's love of writing crazy stuff down the sides of the guns and, the that and any of the armaments really, and all over martial law. In fact, himself, he's covered in sort of crazy logos and things. And so yeah, I really loved doing this and just getting into the detailing and the just all the little noodly bits that are all over the character. It's a great comic too. I mean, go of course back to the 80s when Marvel was really doing some incredible stuff and putting out martial law. I mean, amazing to think.
Well, this was a nice piece, and Craig Welsh has picked it up. Craig.
Oh, thank you, Craig. Much appreciated.
What was that? I think Craig said he was going to hang it next to another piece of yours, the Mary Poppins Boys page that he got from you last year.
Oh, right. Thank you. Yes, that's with the female floating down from destroying the plane.
Yes.
In Herogasm. Yeah, the final issue. I think the final issue of Herogasm. If I remember.
Your Herogasm artwork on CAF is some of the most viewed. I mean, I'm sure that doesn't surprise you, but it sits there right in the top 10 pieces of yours. I think there are 6 pages from Herogasm that are the most viewed all time ever on the site.
Well, that's understandable. The Boys is a huge thing. It's a bit of a phenomenon. No, isn't it? So that would boost up anybody's artwork. So it would, yeah. No, well, that's nice to know.
All right. Well, we have one more piece to look at. I think it is something that you did for Dynamite, which I think you did a few, maybe a short series of these Boys homage covers.
Yes. It was an unusual request, but I get it. And this was drawing Vampirella, which hard to turn down. And you can see from my preliminary, I messed about with it and changed it quite a lot from my original drawing, because I was working from Derek's drawing and his proportions initially, and Derek drew the female as quite a small, compact character. So I realized after using his drawing, I had to be a little bit more liberal with it and expand the main figure out to give Vampirella's a leggy character. So you're gonna have to just sort of work with that. But yeah, great fun to do, and the most fun was messing about with the boys' characters in the background, and sort of assigning them sort of Hammer horror or horror movie tropes that sort of seem to fit them the best for whatever reason, and turning the dog into a cat, and such like, and it was just fun to play about with. I had a great time with that.
Yeah, I can see one other time, but yeah, no, I remember there was I think it was one other Vampirella, maybe a Red Sonja, something like that. But
yes, and Jennifer Blood.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yes, Jennifer Blood too. Yes, I think those were the 4. Yeah, maybe there were 5. I can't remember. Yeah, something like that. 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, and they were all great fun to do. Yeah, very unusual. Obviously some of the covers were designed for a particular character, and it was sort of odd to kind of force the new character into the mold of the other one. It was but it was something. It was fun to do and an experiment with. You never know what is going to get thrown at you when you're working on comics. Just
you got to roll with the punches, John.
Yeah.
Which you have done. So so we have 6 pieces unsold out of the 18. So I'm just going to recap them for everybody so they know which ones they are. I end up putting everybody who picked them up. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, it's a Saturday afternoon. We know there's a lot of people that are going to watch the show afterwards. So those people who watch the show afterwards, if any of these pieces that you saw didn't get claimed, you can shoot me an email, bill@comicartfans.com, and I'll let you know if it's still available or not. And I do put these up in my CAF classified, so everybody on Comic Art Fans is going to know the pieces that weren't sold today too. So for those of you interested, just be aware that a lot of people are going to have their eyeballs on this soon. We got lot 10 did not sell. This was the that was from a Harley Quinn storyline. I can't remember now. It was Valentine, and this is priced at $400. It was lot 10. Then we had the 2 Hitman pages. This was lot 12, priced at $950. And again, all these are on 11 by 17. This was priced at $950, as was the lot 13 piece at $950 from Hitman 59. And then let's see, the next 2 pieces were the Rogue Trooper cover that pulled together several past stories that IDW published. This was $1,200 on 11 by 17. And we also had lot 16. That was the 30th anniversary print, priced at $1,200 on 11 by 17 as well. And we just looked at this one. Let me show it again. It was the Vampirella Year 1 Dynamite cover. That was also $1,200. So there you have it.
Yeah. And in the comments, Brent has mentioned that it was himself who commissioned me to do the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I mean, we both love Kevin Neal, it seems, but that's because we're men of exquisite taste.
Very good taste, absolutely. So well, listen, John, this was a lot of fun. I get nervous when I have to talk to a creator or anybody that I haven't met before. We really should do it again, because like I said, I really didn't get through my list at all.
Okay, well, let's afterwards we'll fire an email back and forth and have a chat about that, Bill. That sounds great.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So I've had a very pleasant chat, and it's been good fun reminiscing. And talking about all the old pages of art.
There you go. Remember, everybody, if you picked up artwork, and I think we've got at least 10 unique people that did, and I've already gotten a few emails, but my email address is right down below, bill@comicartfans.com. Shoot me an email. It's actually a big help. Include your mailing address when you do that too, so that you're just kind of cutting to the chase. So I know you're US or international, so when I send you a quote or an invoice, I know what the shipping is going to be, all that stuff. So include that when you do it, and we'll get this thing done. Everything that gets paid, I get in the mail on Monday, so you could have it up in your calf gallery by Friday. That's the way we like to do things around here. But John, thanks again, man. We will do this. We will do this again in the future, and and
sounds great.
A few other things.
Super, Bill. Yeah, thank you very much, and cheers everybody for tuning in and listening to me waffle on. I hope you've at least enjoyed yourself.
I think they did. Well, we had about 100 people watching us there for a little bit there. That's good. But yeah, everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you for watching, and thank you to those who picked up artwork. Shoot me the email, and we'll get everything squared away. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.
Cheers.